Hey guys, and welcome back to another Act 72 video, and in today's video I'm back with another interview and I'm here with Dean Sutherland. Dean, how are we?
I'm very good, my man. Yourself?
I'm great, thank you very much for coming on the channel, mate.
No problem at all. My pleasure.
Great, so am I right in saying you're 23, you're a super welterweight and you're 13-0?
Correct, man. Correct.
Okay, great. Well, if you're on your round here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into it. So, the question which I always like to start off with is, why did you start boxing?
I got into boxing actually from kickboxing. I was a kickboxer from the ages 9 till just before my 18th birthday. Ended up going on to win multiple world titles at multiple different weights. Basically I achieved everything that I wanted to and could do in the kickboxing. And the dream that I always had was being a full-time athlete, and in kickboxing unfortunately you couldn't do that. It doesn't pay the bills at the end of the day. So it came to the crossroads between either the professional boxing or the mixed martial arts side of things, and my passion was massively boxing. Big fan of boxing, always been interested in it, been to a couple of different big fights and stuff like that as well. And I thought that would be the best transition for myself, start sparring and stuff like that with a couple of pros up here in Scotland as well, and knew that's what I wanted to do. And the other thing as well, from a striking point of view, in the mixed martial arts I could stand up and strike with anybody, but did a couple of grappling and jiu-jitsu classes, and I was getting tied up like a rubber band. It was like a turtle on my shell. And it was, at that time, I had a lot of confidence. I was winning everything that I possibly could. I didn't really want to take 2-3 years out of competing to work on other things before I could get back to the level that I knew I could compete at. So boxing was the easy transition and easy choice to make, and been living the dream ever since.
Definitely. And so, did you end up having, because obviously you said you had the kickboxing until you were about 18, did you end up having much of a boxing amateur career, or not especially?
No, I actually only had 5 amateur fights when I was 11 years old. That's when I originally thought about boxing. But the reason I went into boxing, well, amateur boxing at that time, was actually to get just my hand speed and my hands better for my kickboxing competitions. Because at the time I didn't really have the aspirations at all of boxing. I was passionate about it and like doing the classes, but like from a competing point of view, my style was completely different to what amateur boxing was really looking for or was suited for. So I only had the 5 amateur fights when I was 11, and then didn't do any boxing at all until I'd went professional, so jumped right into the deep end. But I've been in combat sports, started taekwondo just before my 4th birthday and started competing when I was about 5, so I've been in combat sports and competing my whole life. Basically, that's 20 odd years that I've been involved, so I'm combat hardened, and it's very, very, very easy to transition when you're like that. You've got so much experience involved in the sport. So although I didn't have a big pedigree or amateur career, I had it in a different combat sport.
Yeah, fair enough. And so you've now had the 13 pro fights where you have remained unbeaten. And so out of all of these fights, which one would you say you've performed your best in?
Probably perform my best. It's tough because it still has been a transitional period for myself. The best performance that I've probably done to date, personally, I felt, was my fight back after COVID, which was for the WBO Youth World title fight. It was a mixed thing, obviously, with a big layoff from COVID. I changed gyms and training setup. It was my first time working with that team for the fight. And a lot of people didn't know this, but in the build-up to the fight, I actually had a major injury that probably should have ruled me out from the fight. I actually tore 2 ligaments in my foot with grade 2 tears. That was just 5 weeks before the fight, and the recovery period for that was between 8 and 12 weeks. So I do the quick math there, it doesn't really work out, but it meant that I couldn't do the usual type of cardio that I would like to do with the running and sprints and stuff like that. I had to take all the impact off of my foot. So I was spending 3 to 4 hours a day on the cross trainer to do that cardio. And honestly, I got sick and fed up of the thing. But it was the only way to make sure I was going to be able to do the weight. And then did on the last week, my foot was feeling better, so I did 3 boxing sessions that week. But even on fight night and stuff like that, I had my foot and ankle completely taped up, and that was probably the most nervous thing about the fight. Not having the big layoff, not a step up in opposition of that as well. It was more mentally. I knew that I wasn't 100%, but the performance that I still went on to go and do to stop a tough Mexican that had never been stopped before, and do it in second gear, basically never really had to step up through the levels. That was probably the best performance I can say today.
Definitely, that's a real story right there, and it's kind of motivational in a way. It's like even though you faced such quite big adversity, you still managed to pull through, and now you've managed to get a belt for it, and so that was very impressive, my friend.
Yeah, very much so. So that was probably more from a mental and physical point of view. That I would say, like from a boxing sense, it might not have been the best version of myself, but it was the best version that was available at the time. Yeah. So and obviously to pick up a belt, first fight in COVID, changing teams, not 100% physically, a big stoppage win against a guy that hadn't been stopped, and a nice new shiny belt as well. So it was a great night.
Definitely. And so you spoke about how you got the WBA and WBO, youth welterweight belt, but you've also gotten the WBC Silver International belt, welterweight belt. And so how does it feel? You're only 23. How does it feel to already have had 2 belts?
It feels good, but that's exactly what I'm in the sport to do. And yes, they're lovely belts and they look good on the mantelpiece and stuff like that, but the aspirations that I've got in my career, that'll be sort of belts that'll add to the bottom of the list. I've got big aspirations to go on and win major accomplishments in the sport. But to be so young, to be undefeated, not have an amateur career, go into the sport straight away. I'm like I was saying, I won world titles in kickboxing, so I'm not going to then drop the levels that I hold myself accountable for. That's the levels that I believe I'll get to in boxing as well. But every single title is another stepping stone, and that fight was probably the hardest fight that I've had to date. And to come through that and pick up that lovely green belt as well was always a nice feeling, especially in front of a big sold out home crowd as well. So it's lovely and nice to have these belts and stuff like that, but it's a good little stepping stone for myself in this career.
Definitely. And so in a couple of your prior answers, you spoke about how your style is a little bit in a way unorthodox, and am I right in saying you're a southpaw?
Yeah. But I'm a awkward southpaw because I'm actually right-handed.
Right, okay.
Which is different for most people. It'd be the closest person you can compare it to, be like Miguel Cotto is orthodox, but he's left-handed orthodox. So it's the same sort of style like that for myself. But yeah, I would say orthodox fighters, being a southpaw straight away, not right up with their favourite side of things. But it's the style that I've got, and comfortable to switch it and stuff like that as well, which people haven't actually seen. I've only done it maybe a couple of times in fights when I'm really comfortable, but I'm more than capable to switch hit as well.
And so, obviously you are still unbeaten, but have you faced any kind of adversity in the way just for being a southpaw, especially a right-handed southpaw?
Yeah, probably. I think the more adversity not was to do with my style, it was more about the weight situation. So that's me moved up to super welterweight and stuff like that as well. I was competing at welterweight, and I still can make welterweight, but how regularly that I was fighting to make the weight, and then especially like for instance the WBC with the check weigh-ins, that was doing a lot of damage to my body in a short period of time. That when it came to fight night to actually perform it wasn't the person that you would see in training.
Yeah.
Performing brilliantly in the gym, sparring, stuff like that was flying. And then when it came to fight night, making the weight, it felt very, very flat and just didn't have the same reflexes, the thought process, and anything like that as well. So that was probably the biggest adversity. But to still go through that, still be undefeated, and still win titles, but for the longevity side of things in my career, like you were saying, I'm only 23.
Mm-hmm.
I've still got a big career ahead of me. I'm never ever put in the realms of going back into welterweight, especially if there's a big opportunity that comes out. Then I'm sure I can still make it. But for comfortability and where I could situate for the rest of my career, I could see myself sitting at super welterweight and being incredibly successful for it.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay. And so, am I right in saying you're now going to be fighting for your first super welterweight belt in the Commonwealth one?
Yeah,
Yes.
on the 26th of November up here in Aberdeen, I'll be fighting Louis Green for the Commonwealth title, which is a lovely looking belt, and it's first obviously scheduled 12 rounder as well.
Mm-hmm.
And this year hasn't been the most easy going for myself with a big awkward situation happening in my first fight at the start of the year in March. There was a lot of palaver that happened with that, and then I was supposed to fight my first fight at super welterweight in June, and then the show got cancelled a few days before the show, and then I was supposed to have a keep busy fight in September, and then unfortunately the Queen had passed away. My fight got cancelled there as well, so been a challenging year for myself from in the ring, but constantly been in the gym. I think when we worked out, it's been like single figure days that I've been out of the gym since the start of the year. Just constantly keep grinding away and improving in my craft, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
Weight's been under control the whole time. Never really had like much downtime or time to really go out and blow it all off. And I think that's where being a full-time professional and thinking and training like a full-time professional as well has really, really benefited me. That the condition that I'm in, where still 8 weeks to go, I'm absolutely flying. I can do 12 rounds, my eyes shut right now. Sparring's going well, pad work and stuff like that. I'm feeling razor sharp and hitting PBs on 5k runs, 10k runs, sprint work. So my body's working like an absolute machine right now, and being up at super welterweight, being able to eat that bit more, fuel my training sessions, I'm getting the best out of my body, and that's just not just from a physical performance, but like from a mental and emotional point of view as well. I'm a much happier person. Don't get me wrong, it's still tight to make the 11 stone weight, but it's a lot more manageable than making 10.5 stone, I'll tell you that.
Okay, that's great that you're finding your position where you are balancing the, of course, hard work, but also still getting a good level of enjoyment out of it. And I'm sure a lot of fighters might not be able to get the enjoyment quite as much out of the sport as they might be working really hard. So it's nice to hear that somebody is finding a nice balance.
Yeah, and I know it's a bit a cliche to say, but obviously, as they say, a happy fighter is a dangerous fighter. And that is very much the way it is just now. When you're in a training camp, it's tough, not just on yourself, but the people around you as well. But it takes its toll mentally and emotionally on you as well. Being involved, and especially if you're really, really tight at the weight and you're having to do extra work just to make the weight, it's not a nice position that you're putting your body through. But to be able to eat that bit more, fuel my training sessions. At the end of the day, it's like trying to get the best out of Ferrari with putting water or something like that, and it just doesn't work. It needs the best fuel to perform the best, and that's where this move up to super welterweight was spoken about for the last couple of fights that I was scheduled to do, even last year. But at the time, I still had titles to win at welterweight, but then going forward, I knew that super welterweight was the position that I'm going to really make my mark, especially domestically as well.
Okay, great. Well, you have got a tough opponent in Louis Green coming up, and so how much do you know about him as a fighter, and what, if you don't, I mean, obviously you don't want to give away too much, but is there anything that you can maybe see that you might be able to exploit or anything like that?
No, Louis is a very, very tough customer. Really tough. I'm expecting the best version of him up here as well. He is obviously came off the back of a good win as well over in Poland against Undefeated guy as well. So he'll be full of confidence and looking to come up and spoil the party for myself. But stylistically wise, I think he falls into a lot of traps that I'll be able to set. Don't want to say too much, but I think style wise, I'll be a bit of a nightmare for him, and I think the frustration would probably get the better of him. But at the end of the day, I'm preparing for the best version of him. I'm preparing for 12 runs of absolute war if it needs to be. But I'm very, very confident in myself to come away with this victory and look good doing it as well.
Great. Okay. Well, you said about how you want to look good doing it, and I'm sure the fans are gonna want to come and see a good fight. And so, why should people come and watch you? What makes you an interesting fighter?
Well, especially up in Scotland, it's a very selective pool of proper talent that we've got, and being one of the main professional boxers from Aberdeen, the football team's not very successful, so we need to have something else to get behind. So the local support that I've been given already is unbelievable. The show is waiting to be announced next week, and it's a complete sellout. We're still a month and a bit to go. We had to beg the venue to get extra seats in just to make up with extra tickets that we'd already sold, basically. So the nights in Aberdeen are only going to get bigger and bigger. And for myself, I'm looking to really put Aberdeen on the boxing map domestically. And obviously, for myself, entertainment is the big thing for the crowd to come and see. But for myself, it's all about winning at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how it comes. The win's the only thing that matters. But to bring the Commonwealth title up to Aberdeen again, and then look for other major titles as well. And 23, got a lot of time still on my side. Young in my career, took risks basically right from the very start of my career, and I don't look at stopping that anytime soon. So when you look at especially the super welterweight scene domestically, just now there's brilliant fights anywhere across the top 10. And I'm just looking to be involved in them fights, being in memorable fights, and do the best I possibly can and win as much as I can in this sport. And that's basically it. If they're looking for a good night as well up in Aberdeen, the atmosphere's electric. Everybody gets behind local support. It's been really, really helpful for myself that I've barely even had to push ticket sales out. The people are just coming to myself and they're going like hotcakes. So it's a great feeling, great inspiration for myself to continue that whatever I'm doing it right. So continue to do it and keep having a lot of fun and a lot of enjoyment doing it as well.
Okay, great. Well, you've said it a few times about how you believe you can go very far in the sport, but I always kind of like to ask, how far do you believe you can go?
I do 100% believe that I'll be at world level. I've got a lot of time still to grow and improving with every single fight, every training camp that we're doing. Like we're saying, I'm very, very rarely out of the gym. I'm involved in the sport. I'm passionate about it. Watch a lot of it outside of things. But yeah, I really do believe that I will go on to world level. But the main goal that I always had when I got into the boxing was to win the British title. That's legacy and history for me to be the first person from Aberdeen to win it.
Wow.
So that's a big driving force for myself. But winning that title wouldn't be the end of the road for me. I've got a lot of aspirations in the sport. I've been to world level in kickboxing and felt the success that it's had there, and want to obviously make the most of the career that I've got in boxing. So if I was to limit myself down to a certain standard, then I'm already putting a cap on how far I believe I'm going to go. But I really, really do believe I can achieve a world level, and I know that the fighters that if you look above me in the rankings and stuff like that, every single one of them's a great fight, but I've got time on my side, which a lot of them don't, and I'm just going to constantly keep improving and improving and improving, and 1% every day, and I'll get there eventually.
Definitely. Okay. Well, you've said about how you, of course, would like to be in the world rankings, and to be able to get up to that level, you're going to have many more tough fights. And is there anybody, possibly in the super welterweight division that you're now moving into, is there anybody in that division that maybe just down the line you'd love to have a fight against you, because maybe stylistically, or just or you entertainment wise, or anything like that?
I think realistically, if you look at any of the people in the top 10, they they're all like the British rankings. You could move it to European or world rankings, like, and they wouldn't be out of place really. The domestic level is brilliant that we've got here, and every single one of the fights is really, really competitive. So for myself, there's no point putting any names onto it because I'm willing to fight absolutely anybody. I'm obviously not backed by a big promoter and like that up in Aberdeen. That I'm willing to travel and take these opportunities whenever they arise. But for me, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. It's my journey. It's nobody else's journey that I'm doing this for. This is my career, and I'll take my time. And when everything's right for me, then I'll take any of these fights whatsoever. I'm more than confident in any of these fights, and it's very much that my manager and my trainer has got to tell me it's a marathon, not a sprint. Because as a fighter that's got huge ambitions, I would fight anybody any single day, as long as it's a fair date, same weight. Anybody can have it, as they say. But for myself, it's having the right people around me and guiding my career in the correct way, and getting as much out of this boxing career as possible. That's a big thing for me. But domestically, internationally, anything like that at all, the level is right up there, and I see myself right in the mix with any of them.
Great. Okay. Well, I'll leave it with this final question. Thank you very much for your time, by the way, mate.
My pleasure, my man.
I'll leave it with this final question, which I always like to ask. You've got a little bit of a platform here. Would you like to shout anything out?
I would just like to say a huge thank you, obviously, to my sponsors. This has been the first year that I've been a full-time professional, which is a dream come true. It's something I've always wanted to do, so a huge thank you to all of them. To the support that I've been given for this upcoming fight, a huge thank you to everyone that's paid their hard-earned money and still continue to show support, even though it's been a challenging year with fights being cancelled and stuff like that as well. And just want to say, keep an eye out for myself, because after this fight 2023, I'm into some major fights on some major platforms as well, and I'm ready for absolutely anything. So, and a huge thank you to yourself as well for taking the time.
Thank you very much, my friend. It's been an honour.
Thank you very much. And like I was saying, anytime again that you want a interview or anything like that, just give myself a shout and I'll be free for you.
Great. Yeah, maybe sometime next year when you're fighting for the British belts or anything like that, we can come back and do a return interview.
That'd be absolutely brilliant, mate. And then we can look back and see how much of the things has came true.
Definitely. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching the video. Like the video if you didn't, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.